Hello, everyone. Great to see you. And thank you, Chris, for the warm introduction. Uh, Both Chris and I are so excited to be here together with you today. And specifically, we're going to be talking about the work we're doing within the Google for Education world, focus on how we can make AI helpful for everyone to drive towards meaningful outcomes for the betterment of students and to improve the lives of educators, students, faculty members, and more. You may be wondering, who are these people? So we'll start with a quick set of introductions. My name is Drew Seidel. I lead the Workspace for Education team in North America. What that means is I lead a team that has this really phenomenal and unique opportunity to partner with and to learn from both K-12 and higher education institutions across the United States and Canada. So if anyone is coming from an EDU organization, maybe we could do a quick thumbs up or a quick wave or hello, and the emoji reactions would be good just to kind of understand the mix of audience that we have here. And of course, if you are coming from an organization outside of EDU, you are welcome to connect with us. We'd be happy to facilitate introductions and put you in contact with the right folks so that they can best help you move forward. I'll pass things over to Chris.
My name is Chris Doherty. If you take one letter from my name, I'm Chris Daughtry. I don't have any money. I've never won American Idol or came in second American Idol, et cetera, et cetera. So there's my dad joke out of the way for today. I lead our education strategy for Google Cloud for the central part of the country. In other words, I'm working with schools, K through 12, higher education, nonprofits to figure out how do we bring the best of Google to your organization and to figure out what kind of outcomes are we going to drive for your learners. And so just to Drew's point, we think of a learner as potentially a workforce developer, a workforce person inside of a state in terms of open jobs and kind of matching things up from that perspective there. So we have a large purview, really the goals of, with the goals of driving outcomes across the board when it comes to learners, educators, and beyond. So
Chris, now given your swath, and apropos to Drew's comments, we have Danny, who's one of the top IT people at UT Dallas. So that's, as you would define, in your part of the country.
It would. And so, yeah, kind of how it breaks down around to that point. Yes. So K through 12 and higher education, central part of the country is my responsibility. So great to connect. To Drew's point, we are here to connect and or put you in the right, to the right people within Google, which is a skill set amongst its own. Right? Just figuring out who needs to work with you there. So we're about 190,000 people across the world. So if you think about kind of just figuring out who in Google can help me with this, Drew and I are more than welcome and happy to help you be directed to the right people from that perspective. So,
yeah. Also, it's a good reminder. I'm based in Austin, Texas. So if anyone is joining from Texas, hello from UT Dallas as well. Please, we would love to connect with you. And yeah, my group works across all of North America, specifically on Workspace for Education. So I'll actually share a team alias email a little bit later in the presentation. But of course, if you would like to connect directly with us, please do. Can y'all still see my slides?
I believe so. Yep, we're looking at it.
Okay. I don't use a lot of Zoom. This interface is just wonky for me, so forgive me. But if you can use one, you can use them all, we always say. All right, well, let's get into kind of what we're seeing with AI, specifically within education. One of the big pieces we recognize is that we really see this as the next big shift. Looking at the slide here, we've seen a couple of the major kind of paradigm dynamic shifts that have happened in education, and much of this has happened since I've been on the Google for Education team. I've been here for almost 11 years, and we've talked for a long time on Google for Education about these big, lofty, aspirational goals. We thought about things like, could we provide a TA for every educator to help them provide more bespoke, curated, personalized learning for each student in their class? Could we create and provide a tutor for every student, a tutor that is there to support that student wherever they are on whatever device, so that their learning never has to stop. They never get caught or frustrated with a specific topic, but they always have that support and that help and that guidance. And these things felt like they were pretty far off. They felt very aspirational, pretty long-term on the horizon. And with the work that Google has been doing in the AI space, we're actually much closer to making these things a reality, which is really amazing. So I'm excited to share the work that we're doing and kind of what we're seeing as trends as well. And so not only kind of Google recognizing this, but COSIN as well in their 2024 reporting has shared that 73% of education and technology leaders say they see AI as the #1 tech enabler for this year. And we see it not just as an enabler for students or for educators, but as well, anyone kind of working within education or kind of even more broadly, just working. There's so much potential for AI to make people more efficient, more effective. We'll share within the chat in just a moment, but there's a great case study with Mark Cuban, Mark Cuban, a billionaire, talking about how he uses Gemini in his day-to-day. And just having Gemini embedded in his Gmail, he said, saves him on average around 4 hours per day. So if you could imagine, having access to these tools can make a major difference in education, but as well beyond. And we've been talking about AI at Google for a long time. In 2016, we actually reorganized the entire organization specifically to be focused on AI. So we have been a bit in front of the curve on this one. And Google in 2017 was the organization that invented the transformer, which ultimately was what really kickstarted the LLM revolution. And this is kind of classic Google fashion. What we've done in many of these is we have researchers, some of our researchers were just given an incredible award for their work in DeepMind, but we generally try to open source to publish. And the reason we do that with our technology is that we want to enable this to be equitable and to be accessible for more and more. So Google has been a big leader in this space. And we know that AI feels in some ways intimidating, especially for educators, maybe for students or student stakeholders. But this is not new. We have been putting AI to work within Workspace for Education for years. Looking back to 2015 with the first chart suggestions, suggested actions in Google Docs, and moving forward. So for your organizations, if you're thinking about, what is a way we can put AI to work? How can we start to, make folks feel more comfortable with what they can do in AI? I think this can be really helpful for them to, understand and conceptualize that AI has been there for a long time, and maybe they didn't know it, but they've been using AI across the Workspace for Education or other Google tools for years and for years. And not only have we been putting it into work within Workspace, but this is, I think, one of the key differentiator for Google is that we own the entire AI tech stack. I can't think of any other organization that really has this same narrative, that everything from chips to devices to our AI models to the software that they power, that is all owned by Google. And that one full stack approach and the approach that we bring to AI with the full stack specifically is what helps to fuel things like rapid innovation. And it allows us to create truly unique and helpful products. And we'll talk about what we're doing with EDU specifically in just a moment. And when we think about what else it means when we own that full stack, it does mean that we can move quickly, we can innovate, and we don't have to rely on third parties or another organization's product roadmap or another organization's board or CIO getting ousted. There's a lot that could go wrong there. But the other piece that this does is it guarantees a few other things. Security. We know each vendor is a new security risk. We always say you're only as secure as your weakest provider. With Google, you get that same enterprise-grade security across your entire stack. That is really an amazing differentiator. We also think a lot about reliability. When you're looking at which AI partner do you want to choose for the long term, you have the ability to adopt our technology confidently, knowing that you don't need to worry about what happens to contracts or licensing if some third party decides to part ways or disbands. And it gives a lot more flexibility. We can adopt our strategy as conditions change on the ground, or if we see new opportunities or challenges, and especially as we're hearing from our customer organization. So we know that the AI landscape is quickly changing, quickly moving, and we're able to adapt quickly to meet those. Now, there are things that we're changing quickly and we're adapting rapidly, and our product roadmap is incredibly robust, but there are as well things that are staying pretty static. And one thing that has not changed since we launched in 2018 is our AI principles. These are public. Happy to share the link in the chat here. If you ever want to go and learn more about our AI principles, you can do so at ai.google.com. I'll put this into the chat here as well, but we strongly encourage you to read through these. I think we know that EDU organizations specifically are thinking a lot about, what should our AI policies be? What should our AI principles be? When you're thinking about which partner you're choosing, you likely want to partner with an organization that has principles and standards that align closely with yours. And so when working with an organization like Google or with Google specifically, that we're building specifically with these AI principles in mind, and that we're always thinking about how we can make this socially beneficial and helpful for everyone. So now that we got all that high level, what Google has been doing and is doing, let's talk a little bit more specifically about what we're doing within Workspace for Education. So I'm excited to share what we're developing and what we're building with EDU, specifically with Gemini. And when we think about Gemini, you can think about it as our family of AI models, the way we're making those models and those AI tools available across education. And we're doing that in a number of different ways. So I'm going to talk through a few ways that if you use Workspace for Education today, or if you use Workspace within your organization, you can start to empower populations across campus or across your organizations to use these tools. Something that we are thrilled to share is that for any Workspace for Education organization globally, we are now providing access to the Gemini app, which is available at gemini.google.com for free with data protections built in. What that means is that with Workspace for Education fundamentals, our kind of introductory tier of Workspace, any user, as long as they meet the age requirements that actually just updated to 13 years and older, it had previously been 18 years and older, the Workspace administrators and the leaders within that organization can choose to enable that service and provide access with a layer of security, meaning that with those data protections, whatever is being put into Gemini and as well, the outcomes from that data is never viewed by anyone to improve our AI models. It's not used to train our artificial intelligence. We don't share it with any other users or organizations. We know for EDU, this is really, really important. And for other organizations, you want to have safety, compliance, and security kind of guaranteed with how you're making tools available. With Gemini, you can do so at no charge. And if we have any folks on here that are using Workspace for Education Plus or Workspace for Education Standard, you can access that Gemini app with data protections, but it's also available as a core service as part of those offerings, meaning that it's covered by your same Workspace for Education terms of service, our same levels of security and compliance, and you have that level of advanced administrative access, reporting, and configuration. So this is just, I think, an amazing, amazing launch. And something that we hear pretty consistently from CIOs and education leaders is they're looking for kind of big wins, and they're looking for ways to provide equitable access to AI platforms for their campuses, for their populations. With Gemini, you can now do so in a way that's embedded within Workspace, meaning that you don't need to spin up new identity. You don't need to worry about licensing or anything of that nature. You can simply choose to enable it. And as part of the Workspace for Education offering, that now becomes available to your users. So hopefully you're as excited about this as us. And I'm going to share another kind of link here that talks through how you can choose to enable this as a Workspace for Education administrator, and kind of talking through as well how it's available as a core service versus a non-core based on your Workspace edition. Are there any questions about that? I know that was a lot of words.
I'll be monitoring the chat, and I also just behind the scenes, it was interesting. We had quite a few people, as Chris and Drew will see in your email, from the center part of the country, from Wabasee Community College. We've got SMU, UT San Antonio. So lots of people who I wanted to put in touch directly with both of you since it falls within your purview. But I'll keep checking the Q&A.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ron. Wow, sounds like a lot of text representation. Go Stangs. Sounds like go Roadrunners. Nice to see everyone. All right, so in addition to creating these tools, we're thinking a lot about how we create these tools to be kind of made available in a responsible and safe way. So as we've now lowered the age restriction for Gemini, for example, to 13, it was previously 18. We actually worked really diligently to think about what is a way we can provide this to teen users and teen students specifically, but in a way that is going to be safe. So when we kind of determined how we would make this available, we've now adjusted. So if a user is between the ages of 13 and 18, Gemini is going to be tuned to identify content that may be inappropriate to a user of that age. And it's going to trigger specific policies and guardrails to help prevent things like inappropriate responses, anything like illegal or age-gated substances. Those things will just guarantee not appear. The other thing we think about is how we can help students to start to vet and to understand these things that are coming from our prompts, where do they come from? The first time a user will ask something like a fact-based question, Gemini is automatically going to run double check response features, which is going to help to evaluate whether that is actually coming from safe and trusted content across the web. And it's also going to reference that content so the student can actually go and learn more and further vet. And we're providing a teen kind of friendly onboarding experience to Gemini that includes an AI literacy video. So the first time a student 13 years or older is going to Gemini, They're going to have this video that was built and endorsed kind of together in partnership with Connect Safely, the Family Online Safety Institute. And that's going to give that student tips on how to use Gen AI responsibly. So this is something we think about a lot at Google, kind of holistically, not just how do we build these tools and make them really magical, but as well, how do we provide support and guidance and security? And some things that we've been building specifically for education. One that we're really excited about is this idea of interactive practice quizzes. There's just some really pretty amazing research that came out about students when they have access to AI tools, AI tutors, et cetera. They're learning more confidently, more quickly. And so with something like practice quizzes, what Gemini can do is it can generate this interactive quiz based on a user's prompts, and it can enable them to solve and answer practice questions interactively and get feedback and hints from Gemini directly. So as opposed to just saying, that's wrong, here's the right answer, it takes almost a Socratic method into account. So it's going to do things like saying, well, you're close, but let's kind of follow up with a different question. Like, maybe is it the building block of all organic models? Well, let's think about what is the group and period of elements with the symbol of NA. So really amazing thing about how we can kind of empower students and give them that kind of real-time support when they need it. And again, that is coming and available to Gemini for free for all workspace for education organizations. And on top of just making the Gemini app available, and again, that is available at gemini.google.com. I'll put that here in our chat as well. If you haven't used Gemini before, I strongly encourage you, go there, start to prompt. It really is an incredible, incredible service. We also have Gemini for Workspace. And what we've done with Gemini for Workspace is taking Google's kind of best-in-class cutting-edge technology with AI specifically, and we're layering that on top of the Workspace for Education applications that educators, students, faculty, and staff use and love every day. So those include things like Classroom, Docs, Gmail, Slides, Sheets, and Meet. And when we talk to educators and students about how they're using Gemini within Workspace, the difference that it's making for them, we hear that that's having the most impact across these 4 key buckets. It's helping with writing. We know so much happens just in email and docs, just in kind of our way we communicate there, as well as helping to visualize things. If you need to create new images that have never been thought of or created before, you can do so easily and quickly within Gemini. It also helps a great deal to organize, whether that's having a bunch of data in a Google Sheet, if you want to run analysis through that with AI, helping with things like project planning and tracking. Gemini is there to help you organize in those ways, and as well helping to connect. So if you're using Google Meet, for example, as a video conferencing platform, you now can have this Gemini AI tooling built in there to do things like taking notes for you, attending meetings if you're unable to attend, helping to enhance things like the sound and the visual of the attendees, and even more. So we're putting Gemini to work across the Workspace for Education platform, and I'll talk a little bit specifically about what that looks like and feels like. One of the big developments that we've launched in the last couple of months was called the side panel. What that means, and I'll actually show a demo of this in just a couple of minutes, but essentially you have Gemini there and it's proactively running AI analysis, providing hints and guidance along the way as you regularly work. So imagine you open a Google Doc for the first time about a trip to the Grand Canyon, or a Google Doc about the way you're going to roll out multi-factor authentication across your organization. Gemini is going to start doing some amazing things automatically for you. It's going to help to do things like, do you want a summary of this content? If you're writing it, do you want Google to help refine that content? And as well, even doing things like, do you want me to refine it with a specific tone based on a specific audience? So just incredible to see how the side panel has deployed, and what we're hearing from organizations using it is it just makes using AI that much more natural, that much easier. And for organizations investing in AI tools, it means you don't have to go through a bunch of change management and training. It's just there on top of tools that folks use and love every day. We've also built another kind of major development, which is called GEMS. And the idea here is that you can essentially create a custom kind of AI chatbot for your specific use cases. And Google has built as well some pre-made chatbots that are specifically helpful for education. So with this, I'll share this kind of GEMS guide on how to create these, and I'll actually show an example a little bit later. But within the Gemini app at gemini.google.com, you can now start to create these kind of custom chatbots based on specific workflows and tasks that you likely do often. So you can tell Gemini, we're going to be basing our responses on these instructions or these documents. I want you to follow kind of this tone, provide this type of guidance. And as opposed to having to create something kind of new every time, you can save these and go back to them. And yeah, this is another kind of major development in our Gemini world. And not only are we building great tools, but we're building great tools that are safe and compliant. So when you think about Gemini for Workspace, this is one of the first generative AI tools that is certified according to industry security and privacy standards, thinking about things like SOC 123, ISO 27001, ISO 27701, and much more. So if you're thinking about, not only how can you make AI tools available across your organization, but how can you do so in a way that is going to be safe and compliant with things like GDPR, HIPAA, ISO, SOC, and more? You can do that with Google and with Gemini. So to do just a kind of quick summary of how we're bringing Gemini to education within Workspace for education specifically, we have the Gemini app at gemini.google.com. We're making that available to all Workspace for education organizations with data protections at no cost. So that means if you're a CIO, if you're a leader within your organization, you're thinking about, how can I make AI available for my campus? How can I do so in an equitable and a safe way? Working together with Google, using Gemini, you can now do so in an amazing way for your entire campus. And that is available in over 40 languages. And just as of the last week or so, it's now available to teen students as well. And then moving on to the right-hand side, you also have the opportunity to bring Gemini directly into your Workspace for education environment. So if you use Gmail, if you use Docs, Sheets, Slides, Drive, and more, you can bring this best-in-class AI technology directly into those applications to help make folks more efficient, more effective in their work and their learning. So just some amazing possibilities there. And as we've now had this kind of deployed for this point about a year, within education, we've been able to listen and to learn from our customer organizations about who's using these tools and what is the impact. And one of the really amazing things is that, for users 13 years and older, we're seeing Gemini have some amazing impact across a number of different role profiles. So whether it's an instructional leader, an IT director, an organization leader like a CIO, a superintendent, a provost, an educator, or even a student, there are ways that AI is making those folks more effective in their work, more efficient in their learning, more confident, more creative. It's just been amazing to kind of hear how these things have developed. And to give you an idea of what this might look like in the life of an education leader, if you would have this Gemini kind of tooling there to support, imagine you're getting started in the morning, you open up your emails, Gemini is right there helping you to do things like you've got a pretty long email thread with 20 different messages on it. Gemini can summarize that email, and then it can then start to do things like provide some kind of helpful suggestions on these would be responses, adjusting responses based on tone. And then you could do something like ask Gemini, creating a meeting agenda, make some tweaks and hit send. We know, I think there's a McKinsey study, about 27% of time for knowledge workers is spent just in email alone. If we can shave minutes and hours off of that work every day, some really exciting potential there. And then you're getting started for a meeting. You've got Gemini right there. You could go into Google Sheets, say, craft a draft schedule. Let's have some, deliverables assigned to that, timelines, budgets, who's going to be taking on what, as opposed to kind of having to create this type of template that could take you 20 minutes, an hour. Gemini can do it in a couple of seconds and build that spreadsheet for you. Then it's there as a helpful partner for things like brainstorming, creating slides, and just more as you work through your day. So hopefully this kind of helps to get those creative juices flowing and to conceptualize what it looks like to work with this type of AI assistant directly embedded into these tools. And kind of similar to, not only are we building these tools, but we as well want to think about how can we support organizations to deploy them successfully, keep folks safe and compliant. We as well have developed a great deal of training and change management resources that are specifically for education. Of course, if you don't work in education, we have similar resources for, commercial or enterprise or government organizations as well. I'll share these links in the chat. A couple of kind of key ones to call out. We have a really fantastic course called Getting Started with Gemini for Google Workspace, putting that link into our chat. That is a free training that can help any organization, any user understand kind of how can they work more effectively using AI. For education specifically, we as well have a phenomenal course that is not even Gemini specific, but just AI in general for educators so that they can understand how they can deploy AI to kind of better their practice to enhance teaching and learning. And we as well have a couple that are kind of more Gemini for EDU specific. So we have a Google for Education guide to AI in education. That is really phenomenal, highlighting all the different Google tools that we have and how they can be used in the education space. This Gemini for Workspace cheat sheet, that is applicable across a number of different roles and role profiles and organizations, everything from marketing to sales. If you're using Workspace, that's a great resource to help you be that much more effective with Gemini. And then the last one that as well should be applicable across a number of different role profiles and verticals is this Gemini for Google Workspace productivity guide. That is talking through kind of everything that you would be doing using Workspace and how Gemini can help you to do that more effectively. So, hopefully this is helpful for you to understand, not only are we building these tools, but we're building a great deal of resources so that you can deploy them and use them successfully. And we do have an exciting kind of service offer that is available through December 5th. But if you are an education organization and if you're considering an investment in Workspace for Education specifically, we want to help by reinvesting in your organizations. So with this, if you are making that investment, you can apply and Google can sponsor services for your organization to support your deployment of using Gemini within Google Workspace. I'll share a link to this services offer as well. This is a really, really kind of exciting way that we're working to ensure that organizations that are investing in our tools, that we're reinvesting to help make sure that not only do they get access to those tools, but the deployments are successful, which I think is in kind of classic Google fashion, a way that we kind of differentiate ourselves. So kind of doing a quick summary here as far as next steps for any of your organizations that use Workspace for Education today, or maybe you're considering using Workspace. The Google for Education team is here to support you across a number of different activities. One is if you want to have a discussion or if you want to kind of explore what it looks like to configure and to deploy these Gemini tools across your organizations, we have the resource and the guidance and the expertise to help you kind of put that plan in place and to deploy those technologies equitably and safely across your organizations. Google for Education team is also here to support you in planning discussions. I was just at EDUCAUSE last week in San Antonio with Chris as well. And it's really startling to hear, it feels like a lot of education leaders feel like they're kind of behind the 8 ball on this. They're looking at, how do we deploy these technologies? What should be our AI plan? What are other organizations doing? As Chris had mentioned, the Google for Education team, not only do we know kind of Google, but we also have a lot of connections across the EDU world. So we'd be happy to have those conversations, share those best practices, and help make connections for you as well. We're there to support as well how you want to provide things like training and empowerment across your organization. So if you do want to deploy and configure Gemini tools, we're here to help kind of partner with you to determine how should we do training, what kind of change management would be required, if any, and do we want to look at something like sponsoring a PD partner through that Gemini services offer. So I would say we would love to have a conversation with you. I shared my kind of team email alias here. I'll put it in the chat as well. But if you would like to connect with Google for Education team using this alias, that will go directly to my team and to me. And we would love to hear from you. So that's everything from the Workspace for Education side. I'll pass things over to Chris to talk about building outcomes for EDU with Google Cloud.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. I'm going to wrap things up this afternoon with you all. So thanks for the time. So Google Cloud, if you all don't know or haven't heard about it, Google Cloud is a hyperscaler cloud. It is considered one of the big 3. Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud are all considered in that bucket there. If you've seen the financial reports and how Google Cloud is growing in general across the market within Google, it's pretty incredible from that perspective. Drew, let me do this. I'm going to take over screen share, if you don't mind. Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to do this one over here and click share. I'm going to show you a couple things as we go forward there. So let's see if this can match out in slideshow. It looks like we're good from that perspective. Everybody seeing that okay? Thumbs up real quick.
Yeah, we're good, Chris.
Okay, cool. All right, so you may have seen this before real quick, and I'm gonna mention a couple of things that Drew mentioned as well. Last year was a very interesting year. We harkened back to when calculators were introduced in the classroom about kind of the revolt of math teachers. I get why, but it was a new technology. Last year was really a, hey, do we even use it? Do we even think about it? What is generative AI? This year is really shifting towards who do we partner with? How do we actually build things? How do actual schools use it from that perspective? I'm gonna go through these pretty quick. But this is typically when I have students and faculty in the same room together. These are great poll questions. Like who here did not have a calculator? And all of us old people, right? Raise their hand, like that kind of stuff there. And if you get a chance and you want to really chuckle, look at that video of rotary phone stumps two teenage boys in hilarious bet. It's hilarious. In other words, these two kids cannot figure out for the life of them how to dial a number on a rotary phone. They keep in mind this, students typically have never heard a dial tone. Yeah, so it's those kind of scenarios there. So kind of a poll, and as you've heard Drew mention as well, these are key issues within education that we need to help solve when it comes to AI. To us, they're not negotiable. You have to have all of these. Privacy, Drew's talked about it. In general, you have to be able to control your data. Safety, the idea of hallucinations. It's called generative AI for a reason, right? It will create things, it'll create hallucinations. So how do you address, minimize, eliminate those? And then also my favorite is talking about accuracy and appropriateness. I have a nephew here in Cleveland where I live. He's in 8th grade. We can talk about math and I can get him to the right answer within how I think about math. He can get to the right answer, but he does it in an appropriate manner. I don't. I learned old math. A little bit of an annoying topic there, right? A little bitter about that. Either way, we get to the right answer, but the appropriateness has to be there as well. So across the board, all three of these have to be addressed in your strategy when it comes to AI across campus. This one gets me every time I talk about it. 90% of the world's data has been created in the last 2 years. In other words, the data explosion is obviously here. The other thing that happens is cybercrime goes in tandem with the growth of data. The more data we have, the stronger the case for cybercrime issues, right? If you think about it that way. We're going to be at 181 zettabytes by the end of next year is the estimate. And we also found out through our panels and our reports that 80% of the global data sphere is going to be unstructured data by 2025. In other words, we're right around the corner from 2025. 80% of the world's is unstructured. In other words, it's not in an enterprise system, an Oracle database, that kind of thing there. So we have to recognize that there's dark data, which just means that there's data that your organizations are not using effectively. And there's a 54% response from digital leaders saying the skills gap is preventing them from hiring the right people. So we know that these are things that are happening in there. Drew and I were just at EDUCAUSE. They came out with their top 10 list. It's actually a top 11 list. I made fun of them for this because there's 2 number 10s. These are things like data empowered institutions, taming the digital jungle, making the students' experience more seamless. We've heard these trends. They're not new per se, but they have to be addressed within higher ed because EDUCAUSE said this out loud. This is their theme. It's building trust in education, especially in the university side, right? It's the trust factor they've lost, and notably so in the world, right? So, they don't trust universities as much as they used to. The numbers are very, very low. So building the trust through these is kind of a key thing. And then Drew's mentioned this. If you see our data center reports and how we're building data centers, Missouri, Oklahoma, Fort Wayne, Indiana are all getting massive either upgrades, or Fort Wayne's a brand new data center for us. It is because of the demand for usage in AI that we see these massive data center explosions. The rumor is that we can get a data center done in 9 months from pouring concrete to using it. I'm like, I just can't understand the complexity of that process, but it's the demand that's driving it. And if you also saw this announcement, we have a green challenge in front of us to say, hey, how do we offset this massive demand for data center power through AI with clean energy? We have a goal by 2030 to be completely carbon neutral as a company. How do we get there? We have to be unique. So again, we're trying out different opportunities because again, we're putting stress on the world and on the infrastructure around us. So how do we offset that is a key thing overall. And then I'm gonna stop before I start showing some demos on this screen here. A lot of words, a lot of images here, but I recommend you think about your .com life, very different than your .edu life, right? Consumer is .com. When folks log in with gmail.com, they have a consumer relationship to Google. when you log in with your credentials from a K through 12 or into .edu, your credentials change the dynamic of how your relationship with Google is. So the same tooling, Gemini, can be used inside of enterprise enhancement, in other words, a .edu fashion, but also a .com. So your users on campus within your district, you need to make sure that they're aware of how to ensure that they're using the enterprise version of tooling. Drew mentioned data. That's the key thing we talk about, is how to do that. So Notebook LM, which is a fantastic tool. I'll try to show it here today, but if not, Notebook LM is a absolutely wonderful tool, especially for educators. It can be logged in with your Gmail or your credentials within your school. The relationship changed quite a bit. And then I'm going to talk about the generative AI platform on the far right-hand side of the screen. And keep in mind that that line between consumer, enterprise, and generative, that long barrier is the line that says what Drew mentioned. Nothing talks back to Google on the right-hand side of the screen, period. To the point of it's written, and we've done data security. It's in your contracts. It's written. It's out there. It's specific. We never use, sorry about that, data from Google from customers, period, when it comes to the enterprise side of the. So I'm going to stop here. I'm actually going to do a couple demos because these are some tools that we're working with schools, school districts, and universities on right now. I want to show you. The first one is my favorite, which is a personalized learning system at scale. In other words, it's a personalized learning engine that uses AI that takes any bit of content. In this case, we work with the University of Georgia system. Said, okay, what are you struggling with? They said, anatomy and physiology is a absolutely pinch course for us that people either pass and do well and become nurses, or we have a strong failure rate and they don't become nurses. In every state, Georgia being one of them, doesn't have enough nurses, right? We just know that's the case. So they said, we want help with A&P to figure out how to basically help students go that. So we said, perfect. Let's look at all your course content, feed it to an AI engine. We did an 18-week sprint with them and came out with this interface and the AI engine behind it. What it does is it says, okay, users, how do you feel about a topic? Here's your personalized learning path. What does that look like? And you can create a personalized learning path right away based on a topic and your familiarity or level. I'm going to go beginner because I am a beginner with A&P. I know nothing about it. What's your competency level? How much AI assistant do you need and do you want? Minimum, moderate, extensive, excuse me. How much time do you have, right? So if you're looking at a student's calendar, and let's say they're a part-time student or they're working, et cetera, like you need to give them options for how much time do you have. That would be the other option. And go ahead and click submit. What it will do is crunch all of that and build you a personalized learning path using multimodal offerings of web, video, whatever content you have in your repertoire. It'll take all of that and organize and say, okay, you got 10 minutes or 15 minutes or half an hour, go. Here's the process. You've got obviously a video. You've got textbook, right, which is a traditional method of learning. You've got images, diagrams, deep dive into more of that in the process, and then a knowledge check across the board that says, okay, what is a dendrite? To your point, and what Drew mentioned earlier, I don't want it to say the answer is this. I want it to say, hey, coach me through the answer. What part of you should I be thinking about? So the Socratic method's applied here. The other thing we can do is chat with LearnLM, which is that large language model that's influencing Gemini for the Socratic method of learning inside of this, and ask it any question you're looking to ask it. It'll answer based upon the content that's fed to the actual engine itself. So the goal is to say, hey, what are you learning? How are you learning it? And give students the ability to learn at their pace with their feedback, all with the faculty members being deeply involved. It does not make decisions or do anything without the faculty checkboxing it, which is one of our theories. It's our strategy to say AI will make no decisions for knowledge workers ever, period. What we will do is help knowledge workers and students in this case accelerate their learning within the process across the board. So that's one of the prototypes we built over a sprint. The other one I'm gonna do is a little bit less exciting, but maybe to the nerds in the room and me and title, it's also really exciting because this is a simple chat interface that talks to Vertex AI, which is in Google Cloud as our AI platform. And it gives you a chance to very quickly build a chat, which again, still not that exciting, except for, Ron, we're going to use you today. I can hit a drop down and pick any model available to me, including Gemini, obviously, but not just those. Vertex, which again is that AI platform within Google Cloud, offers over 100 different large language models and AI models to choose from. So your users at different parts, especially in the research space, they're going to say, listen, I don't want to use just Gemini. And they might say, I don't want to use just OpenAI, right? I want to test out different models at different times to use them and say, hey, I want to show you how they work with me. So I'm going to choose Gemini Flash at this point. I'm going to make this a document Q&A chat and click submit. So my chat's now created. I can load in different types of code, docs, sync, you name it, right? In this case, I'm going to use docs because I cannot code anything. Not a pride point. I'm going to upload a PDF. So I'm going to roll down here and upload this teaching and learning PDF. What it's going to do now is analyze this PDF, which is an EDUCAUSE report that came out last week, actually, and it's going to ground the entire chat only on that content. So we'll see it when it's done processing in a moment, but essentially now I'm chatting with this document in any way, shape, or form, but it's grounded completely on that document. So I click on the document here, it'll render it for me, goes through the report. I'll say this, what are the challenges of higher education? Hit return, it'll say, great, here's an overview for you and describe in this report specifically, here's the social challenges it brought forth. Summarize as if I was an 8th grader. Let me reduce this down a little bit. So it says, okay, imagine, and it builds me a nice overview of this document specifically to this. So who is Ron Gerber?
I'm scared to see what the response is.
Okay. This is exactly the point, Ron. Thank you for that. It will not give you a response because it is grounded only on that document. So it won't answer questions about what Hitler thought of Paris in World War II. It won't answer who's Chris Doherty, who's Driscoll, or Ron, anything else like that. It is completely grounded, which this in itself is a huge leap forward to what we've seen before in tooling. And this is all simply Google Cloud technology. It's Vertex AI, which is our AI platform, calling the Flash, building a real simple chat ad in front of this that grounds completely on this documents themselves. So again, seems pretty simple, but essentially I can configure a brand new chat, and you see I've got history over time. I was actually at the Frontiers of Education conference a couple weeks ago, and I uploaded a bunch of documents. Here they are, just because I didn't know anything about the conference, honestly. I was presenting. They offered me to present it, which I was thrilled. It was an amazing place. I was really appreciative of this, but I needed to learn more about it. So what are the student guidelines? What's the approach of who the leaders of the conference are? How should latex be handled, which is one of the things I talk about with Matt. Again, all those components readily available. So when it comes to getting AI in the hands of a campus or a district, right? Gemini Workspace is phenomenal. But we recognize that not everybody is going to be using Gemini or Workspace. There are some Office 365 and other components out there. So Google technology can be made available to anybody in any case of a district or a university, and not just Gemini models, but obviously we talked about this. Any open source model that we have available or have access to can be used across the board. Let me wrap up one more thing here. Back to this part. One of the new solutions we are working on is a career pathways solution, which essentially uses AI to really build a dream career. So there's concerns, there's confusion, personalization, and skills degree disconnect have been a problem between states and industry and universities. So what this does is simply says upfront, here's a user interface for you. Start typing in, explore a pathway, get information, but behind the scenes, what we're doing is we're taking transcript data where appropriate, preference data from the students, performance and engagement data, building a mini profile, and then we're taking external job market course details skills graph and building a contextual based, I call it a career dreamer platform. But essentially what you can do is you can control the data, the process, and it gives students really a good 360 view of it. And then the next part of the process is the transcript process, which nowadays you can take a transcript, throw it at Gemini and say, Gemini, do the following 2 things. Build me a narrative of the students, as well as organize all the data being ready for a PeopleSoft database or an Ellucient Banner database. Get it ready, normalize the data for us overall. And it does it spectacularly well. So those kind of things there. So kind of wrapping up our conversation today. I think we're at time, Ron, overall, but essentially what you see here is a GIF. You've seen two really sets of capabilities from Google, one within Workspace. You saw Drew walk through all of the capabilities we have and how we're doing it in a controlled and systematic and secure manner for you. So you can control the data, but really within Workspace, you're getting students access to different tool sets across the board when it comes to using Gemini. In the Google Cloud world, we take it one step further. We say, here's Gemini, but also let's go beyond that and saying, hey, from a campus or a district perspective, what data do you have? What information do you have? What kind of experience do you want to have for your external users, your parents, your faculty, your staff, and your students overall, and give you the ability to build applications very quickly that can control, manage, and build outcomes for you across the board. That's what Google Cloud can help extend over time for you. And so I think we showed this, or we talked about this. There's another set of tools around the prompting guide, which is a fantastic quick start guide. Generative AI for Educators is a brand new course we created earlier this year for helping people with it. And then within the people that are in higher education, I'll stop with this. Google Cloud Skills Boost is offered at no cost to you. There's about 900 on-demand training videos within a small little LMS to kind of walk you through learning. That'll give you micro-credentials access, as well as pathways towards becoming a certified professional Google expert in a cloud perspective from that all across the board there. So again, Google, wealth of education materials to help you in technology, both in Workspace and outside of Workspace, to help you build outcomes across the board there. So that, Ron, my friend, it wraps us up to the hour point we talked about. So I think we're in good shape there. So
excellent.